What is the consensus of opinion? Consensus is a topic that we hear a lot about these days. Obviously, when it comes to politics, consensus matters. Of course, we're now being told that consensus also matters when it comes to science, especially around subjects such as net zero. So it's not unreasonable to ask, what is the consensus of opinion on the future of technology for motorcycling? Now, the government would have us believe that the future for technology on motorcycling is battery electric. That is the one and only future. They are so confident of this fact that they are actually legislating to make sure that that is the only future for motorcycling. So the government seems to be tied to a one solution only, and as we all know, the government is renowned for picking winners when it comes to technology. Diesel cars, anybody? The manufacturers, though, seem to have a somewhat different opinion when it comes to the future technology that they want to see used to decarbonise transport, specifically for motorcycles. All the major manufacturers are saying quite openly that they do not see battery electric as the only solution going forward. They're saying that battery electric has a role to play, yes, but they're all saying that certainly right now and for the foreseeable future, battery electric is not going to fit all needs, all use requirements for motorcycling. And that is certainly the view that I think is held by the majority of riders in this country. As motorcyclists and enthusiasts, we all tend to follow quite closely the development of the motorcycle technologies. We're all pretty well aware of all the things that are being considered and trialled, from hybrids to alternative fuels to hydrogen, all the options that are being considered and looked at by the manufacturers. And most of us await those things with a certain degree of eagerness. So a future for motorcycle technology with a broad range of technologies and options available to us all as consumers doesn't seem like an unlikely outcome, does it? So it's not an unreasonable position for many riders to take. It's that there's no need to worry about these proposals from the government, it'll never happen. The fly in the ointment, though, is that the government policy leaves no option other than a battery electric future. Despite the claims from the government that they are technology neutral, the wording of the policy is very clear. They want zero emissions at the tailpipe. That effectively means zero tailpipe. What that really means is no internal combustion engines. So despite being technology neutral, the government is literally legislating to outlaw the sale of a specific technology, namely the internal combustion engine. At MAG we refer to this as the ICE ban. So yes, the term ICE ban is a shorthand. For the pedantic amongst you, the full explanation or the full description of what is being consulted on was views on when the UK should stop selling new non-zero emission L category vehicles. And they came up with proposals. The proposal was for L1, L2, L3A1, L6 and L7 subcategories by 2030 and the remaining L categories by 2035. Now, clearly that would be a bit of a mouthful and it would be half the video every time if we needed to use that terminology to describe what we're referring to as the ICE ban. Now, it's been interesting to see recently, just in January, the Zemo partnership issued a new report about alternative fuels. Now, for those of you who are not aware, the Zemo partnership is a group that the Motorcycle Industry Association has been working with, discussing the future decarbonisation of L category vehicles, or as we prefer to call them, motorcycles. So who is the Zemo partnership? So if you take a look at the Zemo Partnership's website, you can see that what they say is they are an independent, non-profit partnership working tirelessly with government and our members to help shape future policy. Now, what I find slightly concerning is they say we are determined to create a shift in the way people think about mobility. In other words, they're determined to tell us what we should think. So who exactly are the members of the Zemo partnership? Well, obviously the Motorcycle Industry Association is a member, but it's interesting to note that they also quote that they have 20 public sector companies who are members, and this of course includes the Department for Transport. So as I was saying, in January they issued a new report showing significant greenhouse gas savings can be made by switching to renewable fuels. So they seem to be moving slightly away from the battery electric only narrative. What they say here is that low carbon renewable fuels offer the immediate potential to cut road transport emissions as the sector transitions to zero emission technologies such as electric vehicles. The analysis shows that a one-size-fits-all approach to road vehicle applications is unlikely to be the optimal solution for road transport decarbonisation. So as you can see, they're moving their position towards being somewhat supportive of alternative fuels. And this is basically what the motorcycle manufacturers have been saying. We need to be looking at alternative fuels in internal combustion engine machines. I've had a detailed look at the report, and unusually it does cover motorcycling in there. So it does have an example of the emissions from battery electric versus internal combustion engines and running on different types of fuel. So that is in there. But some of the assumptions seem a little bit strange to me. What they've done is they've chosen a 650cc motorcycle, petrol engine motorcycle as the standard. They've then suggested that this type of vehicle has a 12-year lifespan and that the average mileage is 6,000 kilometres a year, which in miles is 3,728 miles a year. Now, immediately that rang alarm bells to me, because as you can see quite easily from DFT published figures, the average age of a motorcycle on the road in the UK is 15.4 years. So where has the 12 years lifespan come from? And when you look at the annual mileage according to the DFT, now admittedly this is back from 2016, but the average mileage for a motorcycle is 4,800 miles a year, not 3,700 odd. There also seems to be no evidence to show that the longevity and the mileage per year for an electric motorcycle is the same as it is for a petrol motorcycle. So I did a bit of admittedly non-scientific research by taking a look at the Auto Trader website for second-hand electric motorcycles. Now, as you can see, if you do a search for electric motorcycles at a national level, any make or model, any price, there's 2,440 bikes that it will find for you. But what age are those bikes? If we choose the option to select a year, you can see that the earliest bikes that they have available on the second-hand market go back to 2014, and there's only one of those available. Now, if you go all the way up and include all used bikes, there's still only 339 available in total. So if you search for bikes of any age, second-hand bikes, there's a total of 339 to choose from. So not a vast number. But if we just look at the 2014 aged bike, what we find is that there's one motorcycle here available. It's a Yamaha EC03, low mileage. Yeah, you're not kidding there. 1,209 miles on a bike registered in 2014 for a bike which is 9 years old and has only done 1,200 miles. So this 12 years old, 6,000 kilometres a year or 3,750 miles per year doesn't seem to stack up in terms of electric motorcycles. But let's be generous. Let's look at some newer ones. So if we include the 2015 bikes, you can see here we've got a BMW C Evolution. It's a 2015 bike. It has covered just 7,700 miles in that 8 years period, so that's less than 1,000 miles a year, and it costs £5,250. So to suggest that it's a fair comparison between a 650cc petrol bike and an electric bike of equivalent sort of performance is probably not a fair assumption, is it? To say that both bikes are going to be doing have a 12-year lifespan, and to say that both bikes are going to be doing 45,000 miles over that lifespan, I don't think that's a fair assumption. But let's put aside all the detail and look at the fact that what the Zemo partnership are concluding is that electric bikes are not necessarily the only solution, certainly in the near term, and that we should be looking at alternative fuels. We have to then come back to the fact that the government doesn't care. The government's plan is for zero at the tailpipe. No alternative fuel is zero at the tailpipe. The only option that is available for motorcycles is battery electric according to these proposals. This is why we need to resist these proposals. This is why we cannot be complacent about what these proposals are and what effect they're going to have on motorcycling. Now, the decision has already been made for cars and vans. There's some debate, yes, on whether the final date is 2030 or 2035. We could go into a long discussion about that. But the important thing to note here is the mechanism they are using to get to the phase out of petrol and diesel cars and vans is what's called the ZEV mandate. And what this means is from this year, 2024, manufacturers of cars and vans have a set quota of battery electric vehicles that they have to sell. Now that quota at this stage is 22%, but that then ramps up right through to 2030 when it's going to have to be 80% of all vehicles they sell, and obviously 2035 when it's 100%. Now, if they applied that same thinking to motorcycles, that would be an enormous leap. If we look at the figures here for the penetration of electric motorcycles into the market, now these figures all come from the MCIA, they're not my figures, that's from the source here is the MCIA. So I've broken the figures down between learner bikes and bigger bikes because this is the way the government policy is written. Effectively, the learner bikes, anything up to a 125cc, they're saying needs to be phased out by 2030. For the larger bikes, they're saying it needs to be 2035. So I've divided the figures. And as you can see, for the learner size bikes, the maximum sales proportion that it had was in 2022 when they had 11.74% of the sales. In 2023, this dropped back down to 8.2%. The picture for the larger bikes is worse though, because the peak penetration, if you like, of the market for larger electric motorcycles was 1.41% in 2021, and that has declined over the last 2 years until 2023 when it was 0.52%. Now obviously the average for all motorcycles, it peaked in 2022 at 5.9% and is now in 2023 it dropped right the way down to 3.71%. So if the government was to say, okay, 2030 is the date by which we've got to phase out these smaller electric bikes, and they applied the same principle of the ZEV mandate and said, okay, your quota, Mr. Manufacturer, for electric motorcycles is 22% in 2024, you would need to jump from 8.2% of your sales being electric to 22% in 1 year. Does that look realistic to you? If they applied it to the larger bikes, it would be even worse. Now, you could argue it's not so bad for cars. If you look at the comparison between cars and motorcycles, what you can see is here we've got the electric motorcycles in grey, as I say, 5.9 down to 3.71. For cars, it's been going up steadily. In 2022, it hit 16.6%, but even there, it's plateaued. In 2023, it was just 16.5%. But the car manufacturers are going to have to sell 22% electric vehicles, solely electric, not hybrids, in 2024. They've got some work to do, but it is nothing in comparison to what the motorcycle market would have to do, jumping up from 3.7% to 22%. It's just not realistic. What that means is fines for the manufacturers, and what that realistically means for you, the consumer, is an increase in price in traditional internal combustion engine motorcycles. So this is not something that is Wait till 2030 and worry about it then. It is something that could start affecting you as soon as the decision made, possibly as soon as next year. We need to put a stop to this. So as you can see, if this ZEV mandate was applied to motorcycles, it would be catastrophic, leaping from 3.7% of sales to 22% of sales being electric motorcycles in 1 year is just totally unrealistic. Now, you could say, okay, they'll probably delay it till 2035. Yeah, but realistically, are we going to get anywhere near 22% of sales being electric in the next 2 or 3 years? I can't see it happening. Can you? Please write to your MP, or better still, go and meet, talk it through and explain it in simple terms, in your own language. The reason why you think this is a bad idea is entirely your reason. There's many reasons. I've presented some figures here that should help you to make the argument if you wish to go down this route. But the most important thing is to let your parliamentarian know that you are not happy with this policy and you do not want to see this put into law.